Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Hussein Hallak with us today. Hussein is an author and entrepreneur. He's challenging assumptions, driving real change, and unleashing ideas that shape technology, business, politics, and culture in Canada. I believe in Vancouver. Has a Substack if you want to follow him. And yeah, he's the CEO of Next Decentrum and pretty cool guy. Let's start with politics. Hussein, I think Canada's voting yesterday, and
Yes.
we have a couple of options. I'm interested in hearing your views about Carney, Poilievre, and all the options that are given to us Canadians.
Yeah, I think overall, usually we're used to, at least from my perspective, we're used to Canada having not let's say very drastically different options. We have what's important, social services, you're taken care of, especially from an entrepreneur point of view. If you fail your startup, you have a community to take care of you. You have you don't go bankrupt in the sense that you don't have any health insurance, you don't have anything to take care of you. And we need, of course, a lot of things to be fixed. But I think this time we are facing a big challenge, which is the US and Trump and what they're how they're addressing Canada, and how they immediately and particularly Trump kind of impacted our economy in a big way, and that kind of united Canadians, I think. And for me, I voted for the least bad option, which is the Liberals. I think there's a lot to be fixed in Canada. Canada is awesome, and it can be so much more awesome. There is so much to be fixed. We have the housing crisis. We need for our young, I haven't bought a home, and we need for people who are young to be able to start their life in a better way. And I don't think they have the capacity here. So a lot of them are thinking, leaving, or they're wondering what to do. So I think we should do better. We are one of the top economies in the world. We are capable of doing better. But I think there is not that much of a commitment. We get promises, but no action on the ground. So I think Mark Carney is someone we can fight, and we can pressure, and we can push to make Canada better. And I think Pierre is the worst option for Canada. He's for me, he's not genuine at all. He what he says is not what he delivers and what he does. And for me, lack of integrity is definitely a killer immediately.
Right. And isn't that a worldwide problem in which we don't have good options? We only have bad options. And if so, the second option, as an entrepreneur yourself, why don't you run for prime minister? Would be a nice follow-up question for you.
I think the biggest thing is that we think politics is easy. Politics is not easy, just like anything. Just like somebody,
it's very hard.
Yeah, I would argue the same thing as entrepreneurship seems for somebody who's not an entrepreneur. If you're not an entrepreneur, you look at entrepreneurs like, hey, their life is awesome. You see it. You have your own time. You raise funding. You exit in a big way. But that's what you see from outside, and you hear about the successes. Entrepreneurship life is extremely hard, and a lot of entrepreneurs struggle, and a lot of us, don't get those big successes. And the same thing, I think, for politics. We can't underestimate what it takes to be a politician, and what it takes to have a whole community reliant on you. And I think what happened around the world, and I can't generalize, but in general, what ends up happening is politicians are expected to be those people that are here to serve the community. They are employees, and for some reason that flipped, and somehow they're leaders to follow. And I don't think that. I think we install those politicians to deliver on a mission, or to deliver what they promised. And if they don't, we remove them. And not only we remove them, we should pressure them throughout their presence there. And I think somehow it became, at least in the Western part of the world, is that, we vote and we go home. That every 4 years, every few years we vote, and that's how we interact. And that's okay when, let's say, everything is relatively fine. But what we've seen recently is that things are not fine. What we've seen is that people are outraged because suddenly Trump kind of exposed the rot behind the, I would say, polite politics. and people saw what it is, and there's a movement right now that we want from our politicians to deliver on their promises, to make these countries better for everyone. And I think that is a good thing for the people to be involved in that. And we should not follow politicians. We should not vote for one person or the other, or one party or the other. We should vote for a better country, for a better community. And that is my biggest beef, is that I don't belong to a politician. I don't support a politician. I support a policy that will support a better community. And I think over that we can disagree. But unfortunately, when we disagree, people point fingers and they say, well, you are this or you are that, instead of debating the actual policies, and instead of like looking into them and spending enough time. I mean, everybody would know who the hockey players are of a certain team, but they can't tell you what policies someone follow. And I think that's a shame.
Right. I think it's a shit show. I think the structure, I would look like at systems, structure, and technology as an entrepreneur. And if we make the analogy with a founder, right? Like a founder, you maybe have a 1 in 100 chance to make it big, 110 at best, if it's really elite level, right? So I think expecting every politician to be very good, like 100% of the time, is pretty ridiculous. And if you put these 1 in 100 chances, imagine if we have one leader every 4 years. That's one very good politician every 400 years, which is completely ridiculous, right? So I think like expectations, I think citizens have a good fault as well, but I think we need to implement better GovTech systems. And it's not just one prime minister, right? They have their lieutenants. There's at the provincial level, there's at the municipal level, and there's very low accountability for that. There's no systems, there's no KPI, there's no ROI, right? And there's no like real-time voting, there's no real-time data on things. I wish we could just like fire people until we find a good one, and no one wants to get in that arena. And yeah, kudos to the ones that do want to get into it, but once they do, it's an ego circus show. It's like their ego leading the way. Oh, elect me, my face is like everywhere. I'm Mr. Important all of a sudden. Then I have a nice salary once I'm elected. And, like we see Trump, he treats that as his own personal media circus show, which is good ROI for him, right? So I think, yeah, everything needs to be reshaped. And the only problem as entrepreneurs in GovTech, every time you want to get into a government, it's like very bureaucratic, right? So I think it's a humongous challenge. If you ask me that same questions, I'd be like, yeah, I'll buy myself a country in probably 5, 10, 15 years from now, and I'll start from scratch. I think that's the best answer I would have for that.
I think I hear where you're coming from. I think it's politics. We usually don't interfere in it because we have our lives. We want our lives to work, and actually politics should start from local politics, where you engage in the community, you see what works for the community. But somehow we adopted these ideas without really understanding them. Like, for example, efficiency in government. Now, of course, government needs to operate well, and it's good to work for efficiency of government. But this idea that bringing a business person to run government, or business people know how to run governments. I mean, anybody who ran a business before knows that most businesses are a shit show. Not all businesses are really well run. I mean, some of the biggest companies in the world have some of the most waste in the world. So it's not that just by automatic, thing, because you ran something well, you can do something else the same kind of capability. It's like expecting somebody who's a good basketball player to play, football in the same way. And that's not the case. It's a different game. It has different requirements. For example, a government has to serve all the constituents and has to serve all of us, whereas a business only serves what is profitable. So it's a completely different kind of set of metrics that you have to approach. And this is why we need to approach these things with a little bit more nuance. And unfortunately, the political arena doesn't allow for this. It's campaigning. It's all about making the other person bad looking. And I mean, just in this election, when was it? A week ago, did they release their platform? Like, what were they running about? Like, like for 3 weeks since the announcement of the elections, nobody released their platform. So what are people supporting any of them? It's vibe politics.
Right.
So I think there is we can do better for sure, and we can, just like we do in any field that we operate in. There has to be experts. There are people who are good at leadership. There are people who are good at their like you can have somebody who's a CEO that is not necessarily the best expert in the business, but needs to know how to hire the best expert. They say that the CEO is the one who can hire the people who are smarter than the CEO himself or themselves, and they know where to deploy them. So we have a lack of that. We need in the government people who are experts in the areas that they're in, and we need those policies to be stable enough for an environment for business to be thriving. You cannot have every time there's a new elected person, the country shifts in a certain direction. For example, economic policies, policies that have to do with the environment, have to serve the people, and these are not hard. It's obvious what serves the people. It just requires people with a backbone and people with the courage to step in and say, I will make those choices, not just for me to win another election, but for me to serve my country and for me to deliver on the promises for the people, regardless of their leanings, regardless what party they are. We have to stop. Campaigning needs to stop the moment that person is in power, and they need to understand that the power they were given is a trust. It's actually a responsibility, not something they wield against people. And I think all parties in that sense have failed in particularly understanding and appreciating that accountability and that power and how to serve the community. So we get years of let's say the Liberal Party and not really meaningful change. So obviously people are angry, and I'm hoping that if any of those parties are given the chance, that Canadians, the moment that the voting's over, they move to pressuring whoever they are in power, or whoever our elected officials are, to deliver on their promises and to help us build a better community and a better Canada. Canada is great. It's one of the greatest places in the world, but there is a lot of problems that we need to fix, and we need to address them head on.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the chances of us getting at 86% satisfaction throughout the country that are very low because of the system, right? I think you need to be full stack, like you mentioned, to be a good prime minister, for example, not only IQ, but EQ. Trump doesn't have any of the two, but he has very much courage, You also need courage. You need like a full bunch of characteristics to be able to make change. I think one of the best prime minister would be very successful CEOs and or founders of social startups. And by the way, there's like very few of those. They're very rare, these kinds of people. So yeah, and I also think—
You mean the founders of social startups?
Yeah, can you name one on top of your mind that is like very, very good? I didn't have any on my podcast. Like I cannot name one company that does a lot of good for the world, lots of impact, and makes a lot of money at the same time.
Oh, I mean, it does not that one occurs to me right now, but there is a movement which is impact entrepreneurs that are. I would say I personally believe that if you want to build a great business delivers great value to their customers. Period. Full stop. That is what a great business is. Somehow along the way, it became that a good business is to generate profits and serve the shareholders. That is not enough. You need to serve the stakeholders as well. That is the core of any business. If the more value you deliver to your customers, the more value you can extract from them, and the more they will stick with you. And I think that means that every good business is an impact business, is a business that has a good impact on their customers. And I think that is where we will be heading. Hopefully, if there isn't any crony capitalism, which means a system that where big companies or companies in general evade their responsibility because they lobby and they pay the politicians. If we don't have that, and businesses take their position into the as part of the community, where they deliver great value, they're part of the community, they thrive when their community thrives. I think that will restore the position of business as a one of the engines of moving community forward. But that will not happen if, once a business hits a certain threshold, they have enough money to lobby the government to push to change the regulations so that it's more for them, less for the others, to kill the competition. Once you start doing that, and once you start allowing it, and once you start, that's why the whole thing about deregulation is completely kind of out of whack. Yes, we shouldn't heavily regulate beyond a certain level, but we need regulation. We need regulation so that we can have safe foods. We need regulation so that the business doesn't throw poison in our water. We need those regulations. We need regulations so that businesses build buildings that can stand and can be checked well, and it's safe to live in. So we need regulation, and that is where these kind of slogans, where deregulation so that we push for innovation. No, regulation was always there and should be there, but it needs to be sound regulation implemented by experts in the space to motivate good business. And I think once we come back to that, and once we have those controls in place, and nothing's perfect, we will be able to create a better community where businesses, community members, workers, and the leaders can work together, and everybody benefits. And I think that is what people are missing, is that some people are benefiting and ending up at the top of the of the ladder, if you wish, or on top of the heap, where they're making all the money and getting all the benefits, and some people are left behind. And I think that's their right to be angry to do that, or to feel that way.
Right. Thanks to Donald Clark for his comments. And yeah, I agree that with the US electoral cycle, that's constant media coverage. And his second comment here, which is the difference between business and government. So yeah, I agree with these comments. Do you think that injecting AI and AGI into that government could bring more accountability if we just feed it more data, right? As we would as business owners, and if we would ask AI to interact in real time with this and feed citizens better, cleaner information, what would be like the specific solution for that? Would that be an app, in which I could vote in real time? Would that be helpful to have a better democracy in a country that moves faster?
I think tech and AI is tech in general, and AI in particular, has, I would say, a great role to play. The problem with what we have right now is that it is made in such a way where it's a black box. It has all the biases that exist in the data, which we don't know because it's not transparent. So we need that transparency. We need I think tech definitely has a role to play. We need that transparency, and we need AI to implement in government. We have to implement it in areas where the benefits are clear, or if we are testing, which is completely fine, we put the boundaries and we have an objective. I think just implementing something just because it's the latest technology, or just because that is the way forward, anything that is done without thoughtfulness, without thinking, where do we want to go, how do we want to get there, who are we taking with us, and making sure that none of the community members are left behind. I think that is important. And the biggest issue that I see is that we set incentives that are not aligned with building a better community. So for example, we set incentives and say, we can allow and say, yeah, it's okay for some people to be left behind, as long as, let's say, we're making enough money. And I think that's wrong. I think when we leave people behind, that is a representation of us, of who we are as a community. And I think, again, all my conversations, I say, a country like ours, we have no excuse to have poverty, to have people that are homeless, to have people that are not taken care of. I think we have zero excuses to have that. And if it takes us to work a little bit harder and come a little closer as a community, and suffer a little bit more, or have a little bit less of the benefits and the privileges that we have, yes, it's worth it to take care of our community, to make sure people are given the right care, given the right attention, so that as a community we thrive. That is at the end what we're working for. Money in the bank is worthless unless it actually benefits the people that it's meant to benefit. It's just numbers otherwise.
Tell me about your stance, your latest post about AI in education. I think you posted that 1 hour ago. Tell
Yes.
me a bit more about that one.
Well, the idea of AI in education is absolutely frightening, because the the whole point of school, of being it a kind of a pipeline towards work, is completely misguided. School is meant to replace what we had as a community when we were, like a, I would say, hunter gatherer, or how we were growing up as human beings. We needed community, and we lived among, other relatives, grandparents, and the kids got a chance to explore, discover in a safe, relatively safe environment. School is meant to replace that in a, let's say, an advanced society, because where kids get to socialize, get to learn, get to discover. And when we actually enter AI into the process and say AI is the future and what they need to learn, we are saying that school is not a place to discover, it's a place to graduate workers. And that is not the case. It's where those kids flourish. So while it's okay to, of course, use technology and make it available, but it shouldn't be everything we use. And for me, it sounds, in the way that is being implemented, is, well, soon enough we won't need teachers because you're sitting in front of a screen. Imagine 6-year-old, or even at 10-year-old or 8-year-old, all your time sitting in front of a screen, and that's who you're interacting with. I think these are the formative years where kids need to, engage with each other, let them write, let them draw, let them, dance and have fun, because they get to discover who they are, instead of, putting them in front of a computer and then, like, hey, you need to learn AI for what? What is the outcome of that? They have all the time in the world, plus whatever we're teaching them right now is not going to be relevant 10 years from now. If we look at the progress, what you learned 2 years ago is not relevant today. I mean, what is it? The initiative to code, was it like 3-4 years ago or 5 years ago, when they started to initiate? And now they initiate, like, kids need to learn how to code. And now, well, coding is irrelevant because AI is going to do that for you. So what if you teach kids right now at 10th, let's say a 10-year-old or 12-year-olds, by the time they're 18, whatever they learned, or 19, is irrelevant to the market. I mean, kids are, whatever they're learning in university, by the time they graduate, is relevant to the market.
Right.
So it's just I think a nice sounding thing that, hey, we're teaching kids AI, and so we're helping your kids prepare for the future. The way you prepare kids for the future is you actually teach them how to think, how to
Right.
critically, how to read. You get them to read more books. You get them to learn more philosophy, more about the more history, more about the world, more languages, so that they can connect with each other. This is the world that you need to prepare them with. AI is going to reach at a point when they, by the time they graduated, AI will be, something you talk to and you ask, what is there to learn in AI? Like, unless they want to learn the technology behind, and not everyone wants to learn technology. Some of them will become artists, some of them, and that's the other thing that I hate about what the movement right now is, the degrading of everything that makes us human, which is culture, art, literature, writing, everything that makes us human, as opposed to, you need to learn tech because that's how your worth in society is governed, by how much value I can extract from you as a worker. And I think that's such a misguided approach to how to build well positioned human beings that can function in society, that can have a conversation. We're having people who can't even have a conversation online, who don't have any interests other than, scanning TikTok. We need to, and I'm generalizing here, but we need to actually open the door to more cultural experiences, more what makes us human and who we are, rather than, what makes us workers.
Right. You brought up like so many points, but yeah, I stand on the other end of that. I think like art is important and so forth. It's fun as humans, but artificial intelligence in the end is very much humans. It's directly us, and I think it can teach us creativity. It can teach us spelling. Can teach us everything. I'm starting an AI school that's called the CI Uni for kids, and I don't envision like no teachers for sure. There would be a teacher, but they would be adept with the AI and where it's going, right? It's just like the Homo sapien that didn't learn how to build a fire. If you don't learn that, you're just obsolete. And AI is fun. AI is very creative. I use it to create raps. I use it to create stories, right? Stories for kids. And let me tell you that it's better than pretty much anything that a human could come up to. And if I would want that human in front of me, I need to get like a 0.1% best storyteller ever, like you, for example, to get with that. And I think it's just like incredibly valuable to have AI in classrooms, not necessarily just a screen, right? They can interact with their little buddies. They can dance also. AI can play songs for them and so forth. It's just an extension of our intelligence, right? So, and I think it's incredibly important to prepare them for the market. For example, me, uh, and you've probably been through that as well. But I was clueless at 18 at what I wanted to do in life, and teachers, it was such a bullshit system. Not just the education system. It's done so bad for me and a bunch of entrepreneurs. It never taught me entrepreneurship, meditation, relationships, and all of these things. And when I was let free in the job market at 17 or 18, I had no options, right? It was like, what the fuck do I do now? So
Well, that's exactly.
sales jobs rescued me. Then I became an entrepreneur, and then I found my passion, right?
Well, that's
So
exactly it. I think the idea that what we're teaching right now to again as a pipeline for work is what's preventing us from doing entrepreneurial things, exploratory things. There's so much talent with uh, through kids. I've been involved in a lot of programs that taught kids entrepreneurial skills, just bringing kids together to create and build and engage with each other creates an environment for that. And I think the reason, one of the main reasons why our education system sucks, and remember, we are a first world country, and because we don't pay our teachers well. Teachers are the least paid people in the world, and I mean some of the least paid people, and we expect them to graduate people, which to graduate kids that are ready for the world. How does that work?
I
Well,
think everything should be privatized. I think every teacher should be entrepreneur and run their own classes. I think there should be competition for the best teachers ever. So I'm less on the socialist side of things. It's more like people like me starting their own school, and for most importantly, teach kids entrepreneurship, because I think that AI is going to create a fully entrepreneurial market, and people are like, oh, you're born or made entrepreneur. But I think everyone, they don't have a choice in the AI age. Everyone should be entrepreneurs. They don't have a choice, else they'll be replaced. I think there should be more competition on that level, and that means that the best teachers would be paid the most.
I don't think that will end up being the case. Here's let me tell you my case. If you go to Dubai, everything is privatized except for some schools that are by the government. And what ends up happening is once you have the profit motive, see, teachers don't teach to make a profit. And putting a profit motive into everything doesn't work. Like, for example, profit motive in medicine doesn't work because what ends up happening is not the best doctors, but the doctors will be making their choices based on what operations or what things make the most money for them. Whereas what you want them to do is you want them to make the choices based on the best choice for you. And the same thing goes for teachers. It's okay to have private schools, to have private clinics, by all means, but I think there has to be fundamentals where nobody's left behind. Because if you make everything private and people can't afford it, well, then you create what you have right now, where some people graduate from Harvard and the best schools in the world because they can afford it, and some people don't. And that doesn't mean that the best people are graduating. It means that the people with the most money are graduating, which creates that system where you're actually leaving a lot of talent behind. I would argue that you need to create a system where everybody gets that opportunity, because where you were born, because I was born in, let's say, in a poor family, that's not my mistake. Now we can debate, let's say, why the family was poor, and let's say maybe the father or the mother did many mistakes, and let's say we want to hold them accountable. We can debate that. But the kid themselves, when they're born into a family or born into an area like a rural area, that's not their fault. That's just the universal lottery.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so with that, you can't just say, "Well, too bad for you. You don't get access to this." That is what the public system is. The same thing with the mail. Just because you were born in a rural area doesn't mean you can't get shipped, the stuff that you need for life, or you get worse water. That is what a government's supposed to do. It needs to create that let's say, I would say, bottom line, where as a citizen you're taken care of for that. And then after that, yes, we can create systems after that it's based off of your work, your merits, your expertise.
Right.
I'm all for that. But the base level, especially for children, especially for people up till the level of, let's say, their teenage years, that is not under their control. And we cannot leave people we cannot say we want to build a society that is functioning, and leave people to fend for themselves, because that will guarantee that we get criminals, that we get people that are misled. That is what destroys a community. I've seen it in many communities.
Oh yeah, the statistics, right? Like criminality, it's toxic.
Exactly. So I would say, great, create those, and there's nothing to stop anyone. We have probably the most greatest period in the world where anyone, me and you, can create now, like you said, a school, and you can say, welcome, here's what I'm teaching, here's my methodology, and people can follow with that, as long as you deliver what you promise and you don't mislead. And that's, I think, where I would come regulation. But other than that, you can have your philosophy and teach that. You can write a book and let it reach the world. I'm all for the freedom of thought and the freedom of expression and the freedom of building what you want to build and to promote it to others, as long as the base is taken care of. Nobody's left alone. Nobody's left without medical. Nobody's left without school. That's why we build a base that builds a community that is innovative, that is powerful, that is rich. That is my take.
Yeah, you need a small push in life, right? Because you get that push, but I do believe that the most savage founders, they do have that in them, and they're definitely not like the Harvard people. They're people with chip on their shoulders, right?
Yeah, which
like
shows
Harvard,
exactly.
Harvard, that they'll just like cruise a little, they'll get their reputation, trust fund babies, and that they won't really compete against folks like me, for example, that have the flame in their heart.
I think the flame is a human thing. We've seen people who are from rich families. I mean, being rich doesn't make you a bad person, and being poor doesn't make you a bad person. It's your behavior and what you're doing. But forcing people, putting them in conditions where it forces them into something, like it messes with their heads. We are human beings are not used. One of the things I think we forget is that whatever we're experiencing right now as human beings, we weren't evolved for this. We evolved to live in a hunter-gatherer, society. The last 200 years were extremely fast, and we haven't evolved yet to deal with whatever the challenges are, to the point that a bad comment on Twitter or something can be seen like a saber-toothed tiger is going to attack you. You react in the same way. Your adrenaline, and we're still trying to understand ourselves. And in an age where there's all this misinformation and the lack of medical assistance, and and even we're just starting to get kind of at home or feel comfortable with the idea that mental health is a thing. We cannot expect that people will behave properly or in a good way when the world is attacking them from every direction. The media,
you can learn these things, right? Like me, it took my brain probably like 5 years to get comfortable with hate. I do think I could teach a young mind probably in 24 to 48 hours with lots of exposure and maybe a Neuralink one day to how to deal with that. I think I'm like 10-20% social side and 80% capitalist side. Like, just to come back to your point about the best clinics, right? That I
Mm,
still do think that everything should be privatized with time, right? Like a gradual transition. There's a good book, The Sovereign State, about that. I think governments are just overbloated, bureaucratic, and they're counterproductive. For example, the best clinic. Yes, it would have the best equipment. It would have KPIs, and we would be able to calculate with a blockchain system about if their patient is doing well today. We would be able to calculate that, and same for teachers. And there would be a market, as usual, for um, lower quality education and lower price, right? And hopefully, with competition, these should adjust. I think there's also, like, we have like evolution and competition in us. I think us great entrepreneurs, we also have like a goodwill in us. I'm not saying we should depend solely on that, because for my school, for example, we would give some kind of scholarships, right? And I do believe
mm,
that these kids coming from lower backgrounds, quote unquote, would have that chip on their shoulders, and they would become like probably the best entrepreneurs, the best students. And with my school, the thing that would be that we would possibly even take a percentage of the profits, because my school is about starting a business, right? So the kids would make money from year one, and they would keep on playing. But it's just that I feel that releasing them in an AI market is pure suicide for them. They wouldn't be able to compete. So I would teach them to keep on having fun, keep on playing the sort of life that I have nowadays, which is a serious but incredibly fun life, right? Um,
mm.
and yeah, eventually I think that's how things should be built. But yeah, we need some kind of social background in there. That's probably where we need governments. But I don't think that not teaching AI to our kids is doing them any favor. And also, you mentioned that coding is obsolete. Not really, right? Like
No, not
coding.
not what I mean. That I meant that the coding initiative that was, let's say, started to prepare kids
Right.
for that. I believe in the ideas. See, the learning itself is like when you learn poetry or learn coding, it's not
Yeah, it's a
actually the coding
language.
that you learn, it's the thinking, the critical
Yeah.
thinking that you'd have to apply in order to learn that. So I'm all for learning AI and all for learning technology. I'm saying, what do we emphasize on? Like, what is the emphasis on? And one of the things I want to kind of run by you and see what you think about it. If you think, let's say, where did the most successful entrepreneurs come from? And we like to think of these, successful entrepreneurs being people that have a lot of hardship and came from hardship. But if you think of the best the entrepreneurs that lead the world right now, they weren't of hardship. Like Mark Zuckerberg came from a well-off family,
Yeah,
and
middle upper, I would
yeah,
say, and they're all nerds, right? Bill Gates is
yeah,
that way, Musk is that way too, Bezos
yeah.
is that way,
They
but
came they came from very well-off families, and not only that, they were
they have a
actually.
chip on their shoulder. Let me tell
Yeah,
you
and
that,
that's
like
the
all
other
of them.
thing. You have to. It's about passion. I mean, if you look
Yeah,
at, we like to think that it's suffering that actually produced that, and that's actually not true, because statistics show that when you eat less food, you eat, you have a lot of suffering. Actually, your IQ drops,
yeah, yeah. Your
and
brain
yeah,
nutrients.
because your brain cannot think. Like, how can you think if you're not eating?
No, so they were well off, right? Their basic
Yeah,
Maslow pyramid needs were taken care of, but all
exactly,
of these
exactly,
kids have
exactly.
a major chip on their shoulder,
Yeah.
and most of them is because they were nerds and they were bullied. No,
Yeah,
that's
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 one thing.
true.
And
Like
they grew out of Silicon Valley, which is not an area where, like at the times of Steve Jobs, and it's not like an area that they came from poverty. They came from a middle class family, and that's
yeah,
all
so
we're saying is
solid
that.
safety net, right? Like
Exactly,
even if their
exactly,
parents weren't
exactly.
like around, the
Yeah,
society there is like generally safe. They
yeah.
can go out, they have space, they
Yeah,
have
exactly.
uh
So all I'm for is that, let definitely give those people the chance to pursue whatever they want to pursue,
yeah.
because our society have a place for everyone. Where, even those platforms that they created, if it wasn't for people who are, that's why I dislike it when people, reduce the value of the arts and the culture. The reason why these companies succeed is because of the arts and the culture. The company that we celebrated the most, which is Apple, is because of the arts and the culture. And they brought, he was famous to saying that we are a bunch of scientists, artists, history nerds, these kind of people. They weren't not just a bunch of techies. That is what made them who they are. In fact, the reason why Apple is because he went into a calligraphy class. It's not because he studied technology. So I think there's a place for everyone, and our diversity of interests, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of thinking is what makes us as human beings fascinating.
Yes.
And what brings all of these brilliant ideas. Otherwise we have, like, just a stamp, everybody is the same, everybody's the same, just
Right.
like before branding and before marketing. It's that diversity and ideas, just like music, just like anything. And I'm okay with the profit motive. I'm very much a capitalist. I like building businesses. In fact, that was, even though I love art, I love poetry, one of the things that fascinate me the most is to build a business, the idea of
Yes.
interacting with
It is
people.
art. It is
Yeah,
poetry. Building a business
yeah.
is, I think, is the greatest form of art. Not because you
For me, it is. Yeah, I
externalize
agree with that.
that, but like the struggles, right? Like the
Mhm.
mental chatter on it. It's so beautiful when you look at it from a distance, because in the moment it's really fucking stressful. But when you look at it, it's like, wow, man, I was the guy that was running this back then. I kept my shit
Yeah.
together. I did that. I was
You have to lead, you
grateful
have to
and graceful.
socialize, you have to invent, you have to be creative, you have to write, you have to do you have to do all of, especially as an entrepreneur, there's so much you have to do. It's fascinating. And the
Yes,
idea that you can do it again and again, and like the possibility of failure,
it's
what you're
beautiful.
going out. Yeah, it is definitely. And I
And
and I'm
that's why, like, my cause is entrepreneurship, right? Like, I think
yeah,
if one wants to save the world and the social fabric, I think we're mostly responsible. I was reading statistics yesterday. I think a normal citizen costs like 400K to a million to government, and the only 20% in a population that pays for themselves are entrepreneurs and investors and all
there you
that.
have it.
They pay the taxes. They pay for most citizens, right? The 80% pays for the 20, and then we're a lot of people are talking shit about like the top echelons, but these are the people literally financing their full fucking life. Anyway, I want to finish up with a point where, right, a bold prediction. I think in the next couple of decades we're going to see very much celebrated entrepreneurs, but in the social side of things. Like in the last couple of years, we've seen Zuck, right? We've seen Elon. We mostly celebrate them for their capitalistic achievement, but in the age of AGI, I feel that in the next 10, 20, 30 years, we're going to see mega entrepreneurs that do both very much good, right? And profits at the same time. Do you feel the same?
Well, I'm hoping for that. I think we definitely will have a different kind of world. What happened right now, the acceleration that happened in the past, let's say, 100 days, completely reshaped our world, for better or for worse. And I think people have realized that we can't just chug along and just push, kick the ball down down the track and say we deal with it later. We have to deal with the issues that we have right now, and I hope we can deal with them in a way that brings the world together. And I mean, our problems, people say they're complex and they're simple. Simple doesn't mean simplistic, but they are simple in the sense that there are certain things that once you take care of, kind of
Low
things take
hanging
care of
fruits.
themselves. Yeah. And once but it needs the desire, and we were heading that way. And I think it needs the desire, the spine, and the ability to say, Jeff Bezos can deal with, like $100 billion less. He doesn't need 200, 300 billion. And the same thing with Musk. $100 billion is more than enough. $50 billion is more than enough. Now the rest, give it so that the world is better, so that they can enjoy. I mean, like Elon Musk can solve so many problems in the world with just money, not even having to try or do any work. He
But
prefers to
it's
tweet.
not liquid, like we tend to
I
think
get
that
that. I
Musk
get
is
that.
liquid, but
No,
it's
no, I
not.
get
And
that.
if he would sell his
Yeah.
stock, his company would go down.
No,
So
he
that's
doesn't have to
also
sell this stock, but like he can dedicate. And I'm not saying he needs to. All I'm saying is that if we had the regulations to at a certain point, we say that's enough. We need a community that supports you remaining in power and you remaining as a wealthy person, because at a certain point the pitchforks and will come out. People are not going to stand having their community and we've seen that even monarchs and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that dream that it can be okay while everybody's suffering, that never happened. People will reach a point where they will exploit.
Yeah,
And
they'll turn
yeah,
against you for sure.
yeah.
I don't think necessarily would need to donate his money. Like where I would start is maybe I would have a part of that. I think Bill Gates is a great example. I would create an AI to evaluate all of these charities, right, and make sure that if I donate, then the impact is definitely there. I'd ask for KPIs, ROI, but I would possibly like create an AI to evaluate and deploy resources myself in society, because capital is just one force, right? If you invest in there, then what would happen there, right? It's just like if you modify X in the body,
Mm.
let's say that we would CRISPR edit my genes, right, and make me a Mr.
You have
Bodybuilder.
some
my
very,
my
very interesting ideas.
my heart would be weaker, right? So it's like if you inject something in there, something else might happen. So I think what we need is like a big data machine to evaluate what the fuck is going on in this world first, and then try to deploy or resources smarter. That's what I would do if I would be Musk.
I think it's I mean, it's an interesting proposition. For me, it's simpler than this. You pay your fair share as you benefit from a community. It's
But he
kind of like
pays taxes as well, right?
it does
So
like pay 3%. Well, while I pay 30 or 50% over my
but that's billions for him. It
yeah.
doesn't matter the percentage. It's
No,
like,
it does have to be the same percentage because he's extracting. It's the same thing. Extracting. It's like if I'm selling you something.
but he's not
And
extracting that necessarily. He's not like fucking up the environment or creating slavery. He's not
well,
necessarily consuming more.
and to a certain extent, if we want to
He's
argue
paying
him,
like a lot of payrolls as well. So
yeah, but he is to a certain extent building his company in benefiting from a society that was built by everyone, roads, bridges, all of the structure that makes Tesla possible has been built by the American people. The same thing with Canada. All of the structure that makes Lablos possible, that makes any company, what is it, Rogers, any company, for that to be possible, to build on a society and a community and a country that sustains it, requires it has they have to pay their part. This doesn't come cheap, like these taxes are not meant, it's not like paying for poor people. They're paying for the infrastructure that sustains the society for those people. I mean, even Ford, who was racist, he understood that he has to pay his workers well, because those workers are the ones who are going to buy their product. It's like you have to feed into cycle in
right.
order for that cycle to work together. Otherwise, it won't work. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's not like we're not acting. I'm not the guy, I think, to call, for even though I do believe in some social justice, causes, but it's not like you have to do that because it's social justice. No, it's even their best interest is to maintain the cycle and build a cycle that is healthy, just like you do with a business. It's like in this
Yeah.
case, you just take everything from your customers and give them nothing. That's not going to last for so long.
Right. I think everyone was racist in Ford's time, by the way. Like 90% of his generation was,
He was a bit unique.
Yeah. I think like Elon, I think this guy, it was so hard to build his company, and he's been so fucked by the government that I think it's pretty fair to not give back much. Like, and that's why he's pissed at NASA and all of that. And
I would push
it's
back
sort
on
of
that. I would
okay.
push
Yeah.
back.
Wait. You can push
Yeah,
back
go ahead,
after.
please. But I
Um,
would push back on that. Go ahead.
I think his NASA feud right now is even somewhat justified because NASA made him suffered so much with
Mm.
SpaceX and all of that, and ultimately, I think he created a lot of value. What I think Musk should pay for is his fucking tweets and all the bullshit that he spread to society. That is a definitive net negative, and I think he's paying for it right in the Tesla stock. But I think that this wouldn't do it justice. I think his words have slashed through society, and it created havoc. And yeah, he should definitely pay for that. So a tax on tweets, sort of.
I appreciate you saying that. So, regardless of, let's remove the man himself, but let's talk about Tesla. Tesla has gotten so much government subsidies. I mean, this guy is really the welfare
Yeah.
queen. He got
So,
government
yeah.
subsidies in every one of his companies.
Yeah.
So he's the last person to say, complain about the government. He's complaining about government, to be frank. He's complaining about government because of regulations. And regulations you need. You can't have a rocket blow up in midair where there's airlines. Like, this
Yeah.
is our safety in check. You can't have a car company saying I have self-driving and cause the death of people without having self-driving. Like, you have a responsibility as a person on what you say. Just like you can't scream fire in a theater, you can't do that. You have freedom of speech, but you have the responsibility that comes with you having a
I
position
think
of power.
regulations are actually killing people more than they help, because like self-driving cars are safer. We just need like a body to prove that, like throughout the board rank. And it's the same for drugs. I think there's a bunch of sick people out there, but there's the patents bullshit and all the regulations. And if we would move faster, yes, there would be a couple of people that would die, but there would be more that would be saved ultimately.
I will steelman your argument, and I would say, what if the way I understand it is, yes, there are, let's say, medicines that if they were, let's say, the regulations were
Like, let's
made
say
in
I
such
sign
a-
up for it. I signed the fine print.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to fucking die because else I'll just die in 7 days, right?
Yeah, but this is what I mean. Like, the regulations need to be in such a way that it has nuance, but that comes with government spending, because in order to have a regulating body that has that nuance, you need more funding to it, not less funding. And that
Or we
is
could
that
have a
is
private one, right? Like a
a
B
private
Corp
one will not.
or
Well, the private one will end up with 2008, right? The rating agencies were in bed with the banks, and
oh
they
yeah,
rated.
that was
So that's what happens
chaotic.
when you have profit motive. The problem is what you incentivize
The
grows.
Moody's and
Yeah,
the
this is the problem. So if you have to have something that has the public interest at bay without having the profit motive, and you cannot have someone that their livelihood depends on them approving, let's say, something or not. Then they're going to approve it for sure. That's why, let's say, I think in the UK, certain judges, they have, like, they that's how you protect against somebody bribing judges, is like, listen, whatever you want, money is not issue. I think even in Dubai, I remember this. It's one of the things that I remember when I first moved to Dubai. The sheikh there, once you graduate from police academy, you can actually choose whatever plot of land, and you get rewarded for a exemplary service. So at the end of your service, regardless of whatever your salary was, whatever, you end up with a lot of money, and you get a plot, whatever, something like in the millions. And what that guarantees is that you don't have to be bribed. You don't have to get money in any way, because your salary is good enough. And so things like that, like police, like firefighting, stuff that should not be profit motive, teaching. These things, once you provide people, as you said, like Maslow's hierarchy of need, enough for them to not want anymore, you protect against the corruption that can actually seep into the country. And then after that, yes, by all means, if we want to allow, let's say, somebody who's on deathbed, and they have like 7 days, you said, and they want to try a medicine, by all means, let's start carving those regulations and making sure that they actually serve us and allow for people to have a choice. And at the same time, not like right now, let E. coli just rip, let measles rip, like, it's scary. When you actually remove a regulation, you cannot have that. You have to be able to trust. Once you remove the public trust from the stuff we eat, from the medicine, from the water we drink, you lose trust in society, and there is no functioning society to sustain the businesses that we love to build. And I think that's crucial.
right. Yeah, like me, I'll stand to my same grounds. I mean, me, it's always the moonshot, right? That's my blessing and my burden. I just think we need an algorithm to calculate everything. For example, the E. coli on the food that's being served, and I know a bunch of companies that are doing that, right? Like, let's say they create a box, an IoT box for Uber Eats delivery, and they calculate the E. coli in there. If there's E. coli, they just don't ship, right? And then link that back to a mega $1 trillion company that would pay you on results. So it links the API results to you getting paid an X percentage, depending on an algorithm, if you deliver the food on time without bacteria, right? And same for drugs. That algorithm would work for pretty much industry. So thanks for giving me again the multi-trillion-dollar business idea, and that's let's see if I have time to execute. You saying where can people find out more about you?
On LinkedIn, you can find me, Hussein Hallak. Just search for me, or HusseinHallak.com, which is my website. Happy to have a conversation, and I hope that this was fun and exciting to engage. Thank you for kind of engaging with me, and it's good sparring with. I like the war of ideas. You know, like we as long as we're genuinely working towards the benefit of society, we all have different ideas, and let the best ideas win towards the benefit of our community and society together. And as long as that's the direction, I'm all in support for testing and exploring new things. Thank you very much for the great conversation, Charles. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I grew a couple of